Hey guys, this is Ray popping in here really quick just to give a brief trigger warning. If anyone watching this video is sensitive to topics involving domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, just violence in general, I would strongly suggest clicking off this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is not a video that I wanted to make at all. Unfortunately, it is something that I feel that I must make, and if any good can be gained from it, I do hope that it can spread at least some form of awareness. I'm going to leave links to resources that I think are important in the description of this video. This is really just sort of an explanation, and I am going to give a heads up here really quick. I was very drunk when I filmed this video, and I want to sincerely apologize to you guys in advance for how you are about to see me, you know? I wasn't doing the best in this video. This is not me at my best, and I'm not proud of it. But unfortunately, this was the only way I knew that I was going to be able to film this video. There was no way I was going to get through it sober. And at this point, I don't know if I can stomach going back and refilming the whole thing and redoing it all over in a more cleaned up way. I just don't want to I don't want to talk about it again. That's all I got in me. And I did what I could. I edited out what I could. I cut out, I did cut out the things that I knew absolutely could not go on YouTube because, yeah, I'll be honest, there are parts in there where I kind of fell apart a little bit here and there, but I cut those out. It's still not pleasant even for me to watch it in the editing process. That's why I did minimal editing. I'm gonna stop rambling, but this is the trigger warning. I'm sorry in advance. This will be the only video of this nature that I make on this channel, and we'll go right back to doing all the goofy analog horror shit. Alright, I love you guys so much, and I'm forever grateful for y'all, and please, if you guys don't feel like you could stomach a video like this, please do not watch it. You're more than welcome to just join me in the next video. It will be a cheerful one, I promise. But alright, take care. Alright, well, hello, everyone. This video is going to be minimally edited, in case you haven't already noticed. It's also not going to be monetized. If YouTube does choose to put any ads on it, sometimes it does. It's not from me. I don't really give a shit whether or not this video is monetized. Obviously, I'm gonna be brutally honest. I'm very inebriated right now, and I'm not gonna hide that. I'm gonna be brutally honest, because due to the nature of this video, I kind of have to be. This is not a video I wanted to make. I really tried avoiding it for a really long time, in case you guys haven't been able to tell. And bear with me here if my thoughts are a little bit scrambled. As I stated, I am heavily inebriated, so I'm trying to get the words out correctly. For those of you who have been watching me for a while, you might have noticed that for a while I did go kind of off the radar for a couple months. I want to say roughly 4 months or so, roughly, give or take. Give or take. When I did come back, I came back with a little bit of a messed up camera quality situation. Shit happens or whatever. I didn't really want to elaborate on it because I selfishly wanted to kind of move on and just not really I didn't want to deal with it. I guess I kind of felt that I shouldn't have to, and to a certain extent I still don't feel like I should. Maybe that's a little bit selfish. I kind of implied certain things in my community post. I did make a community post about it, a couple of them, vaguely alluding to what was going on. But I didn't plan on elaborating because I felt like it wasn't relevant. It didn't really matter. But I do feel it's a little bit unavoidable at this point, right? Because due to the nature of it, it's going to get out. at some point, and if I don't kind of get ahead of it and kind of explain to y'all what's going on, it's going to lead to some confusion, maybe some concern, maybe some disgust even, and I don't want any of y'all to feel that way. I don't want any of y'all to be unprepared or anything, because that would be selfish of me. And in addition to that, I do think it is worth spreading awareness on. Granted, this is a hyper specific situation. Not many people have gone through it, but for the few of you that have, or maybe might potentially be vulnerable to it, I want to be a little bit of a voice for you guys. Someone you can look to as an example of what not to be. I will try to get through this video as briefly as I can. And I am not proud of you guys seeing me this way, but this was the only way I was going to be able to film this. Otherwise, I wasn't going to. So I'm going to keep this brief. For the entirety of this, and this video is going to be unscripted. It's going to be a little bit disjointed. It's going to be a little bit all over the place because I'm not going off of a script. I couldn't bring myself to write one. So it's going to be a little all over the place, so bear with me. So for the entirety of this channel's existence, it's been around for what, about 2-3 years or so, right? I was in a relationship. I'm using quotation marks for a reason because I don't know what else to call it. But it started out as one. I thought it was a relationship. I met someone. I was getting out of a... Long story short, I was already, a mentally vulnerable person going into this relationship. I already wasn't doing too great. Not the best circumstances. I wasn't doing too great. And I left at 18, moved out at 18. I left at 18. I don't want to get into that part of it. Because that's not a conversation that I'm willing to have with certain people. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it. But I wasn't doing too great at the time, speaking in past tense. So I came out at 18. I moved out at 18. I was homeschooled my whole life. I didn't know what healthy boundaries were, right? Coming into the real world, I didn't have a really good grasp on what consent was and all that stuff. So I moved out. I ended up in a crisis shelter type of situation. And I met a guy there, and I thought he loved me very much. And I jumped into the relationship very quickly. I wanted someone to love me because I wanted to know what love felt like. I felt really empty. I felt really fucking empty. I was really empty. I was struggling with a lot, PTSD, really severe symptoms of it, and disorderly eating. But that's besides the point. Suicidal ideation was a part of it too, but I was not doing too good. So the second anyone showed me that type of affection, I was very prone to it. So I met a guy there at the crisis shelter, and he said he acted like he loved me, and I loved him very much too. So we started dating. I called him my boyfriend for a while, right? One thing led to another. Things moved very quickly. That was the first thing I noticed in hindsight, that things moved very quickly. That's usually the first red flag, right? Everything, vision's 2020 in hindsight. That's what they say. Vision is always 2020 in hindsight. But I ignored it. I mean, even when all those red flags were showing to me at the time, I ignored it because I just wanted so badly to be loved. Because I didn't know what that was, and I wanted to know what that felt like. Right? I'm not speaking bad on anyone here. I'm just speaking about what I feel. To anyone watching this video that has a problem with it, I don't mean you any harm. I don't have any hate on my heart. But unfortunately, I'm in a situation where I have to explain certain things. Otherwise, some people are going to be confused and upset, and I don't want people to feel that way. So I have to talk about it, unfortunately, because of the nature of my platform and the fact that it has gotten way more eyes on it than I ever would have expected, and I'm grateful for that. Unfortunately, I have to be responsible and come clean about certain things, even if they're not necessarily things that were in my control. I'm sorry if I get off topic and ramble. Let me be forward with you here because I'm not monetizing this video. I'm drunk. So it doesn't matter. I'm not monetizing it. So um, I will put a trigger warning on this. But anyway, so I'm probably going to regret this the second I upload it. But if I don't do it this way, I'm not going to end up talking about it. I'm not going to talking about it. I'm going to avoid it until it's too late. But anyway, yeah, long story short, I guess what I'm saying is I didn't have the best upbringing. I didn't have, things were not good. And I didn't know what boundaries were. Didn't know what healthy boundaries were. But anyway, so and I got into that situation. I thought he loved me. Things moved very fast, and then we were together for a few weeks, and then things started to kind of take a turn for the worse. He pressured me into quitting my job very aggressively. So the implication there was that if I didn't quit on the spot, right when he told me to, that something violent was going to happen to me, and I was scared. Something in my heart told me that something was wrong, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it at the time, but I knew something bad was going to happen, so I listened. I quit, and I quit. It's just bit by bit things started chiseling away at my independence, and soon enough we made a plan to move to Arizona. We were in Florida at the time. I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. That's where I was from originally. I spent the rest of my teen years living in the Florida Panhandle, but Florida was where I spent most of my life, and that's where I met this individual. And we made a plan to move to Arizona, and I went with it because I thought for the first time that someone actually loved me, and I wanted to know what that felt like. And then when the night came when we were just kind of packing up and moving, and everything happened at the last minute. Everything moved very quickly. Keep in mind, everything was moving very quickly. Nope, very minimal planning went into this. We moved almost overnight. I wasn't even allowed to clean my apartment hardly because he rushed through everything. He rushed me through everything. And I was kind of in a frenzy. I'm a little bit of a clutter-brained, a scatterbrained person, if you will. So I was a little bit disorganized, I guess, in hindsight, and that can be annoying to some people. I move in a very non-linear way. I probably need to get screened for ADD or ADHD. It runs in my family. But I was moving in a non-linear way while we were going through the moving cycle, right? And keep in mind, we're at a crisis shelter. It's some sort of transitional housing program. So we're in this apartment type building, and we're neighbors. Basically, we're in different units. So I'm in his unit, and we're moving stuff out of his unit. He's mad at me. He's screaming at me, and I can't remember the specifics because everything was a blur, and I kind of blacked a lot of it out. But I remember certain things in flashes, and he was very mad, I guess, at the rate of speed that I was moving. I guess the chaotic nature of it. He didn't like how I was doing things, and he got mad, and I kind of started going to hysterics, and I was crying. He was saying very cruel things to me. I was begging him to stop. I was going basically into hysterics at this point. I put a trigger warning on this video already, but if you guys didn't read it, I'm going to give it to you again. If you're sensitive to topics regarding domestic violence, sexual assault, rape, and sex trafficking, then please don't watch this video. I would appreciate it. Don't do it to yourself. And this is the last time I will give that warning. I'm going to have to take another drink here. He forced me on my knees. and forced it in my mouth and down my throat until I vomited. The last thing I remember saying was no. That was the last thing I remember saying. I said no and I vomited and I went quiet when it was over with, and he made me clean it up. And I buried that for 2 years until it kind of finally came back. And even then, I still chose to continue burying it because I knew I didn't really have a way out at that point. I was still with him. I didn't have anywhere else to go. So sometimes I just chose willingly not to believe it because that was easier than acknowledging it, even while I was with him. I guess it's what they call Stockholm syndrome or trauma bonding or whatever the fuck it is. I don't care. We moved to Arizona. That's when things kind of escalated even further to physical violence. And I remember things in kind of flashes here because I repressed a lot of the memories. But we moved and we were moving stuff into the apartment. We went to a pawn shop. We moved to Tucson, Arizona. We were at a pawn shop. He wanted to do YouTube, coincidentally enough, and I was coerced into doing content with him, oftentimes directly pressured into it. So I obliged just to make him happy. I wanted to make him happy because it was more likely to keep me safe, so that he wouldn't get mad at me. We went to a pawn shop to buy a camera. We finally get the camera. We go to the front desk. And this guy in his probably 40s or whatever, late 40s, early 50s, is checking us out, with the camera at the front desk. And he goes to his car to get his wallet or something. He leaves me there. Didn't tell me to come with him or anything. So I'm over there kind of just talking to the guy. And I'm talking to him. I wanted to go do something special with my ex my boyfriend at the time. I wanted to go to like one of the rock beaches in Tucson at the time. They had a kind of a waterfall area where some of the people would hike to go swimming and stuff. I wanted to know if there were any places like that. I was talking to the guy about it and he was telling me about it. I'm talking to him about it. He comes in while we're kind of talking. We're having a, normal conversation. And, he's normal. He's playing it off. We buy the camera and we walk out. As we're walking back to the car, he says, "I'm not happy with what you did." I said, "What did I do?" He said, "I didn't like how you were talking to that man." I'm confused. I'm like, "What did I do?" Because I knew I was just asking him about stuff we could do in the area because I wanted to go on a date with him. I wanted to plan something special with us. So, long story short, we go back to our apartment in Arizona. And he started choking me until I passed out. I fell on the ground. And he started stripping off my clothes. And he just started filming me. I was on the ground and he started filming me. I was crying. He pinned me down on the ground at one point. I tried kicking him off of me. I remember everything in flashes. Things got increasingly more violent after that. I won't tell everything, but I was punched. I was thrown around, bludgeoned. I was strangled. I remember sleeping. I was lying on my side, and while I was trying to sleep, he forced himself on me while I was sleeping. I just froze up. I just kind of, I need a drink for this part. Sorry. Boy, oh boy, if I was sober, this would be a shit show. I would be bawling my eyes out right now. You guys are lucky. You guys don't want to see that shit. You guys don't want to see the soup bitch cry. It's very disgusting. And I can't make any promises. I probably will anyways, but we're buying ourselves time. So anyways, he forced himself on me and I just kind of froze up. I didn't move. I just froze up and I thought if I just held as still as possible, he would stop because I knew if I told him no, stop, he would get mad at me. So I've done that in the past. It didn't go very well. And he didn't stop. And he did, and he just asked me, is this bad? Am I bothering you? Something along those lines. He said, "Is this bothering you?" I just said no. What else was I going to say if I said yes? He's going to do something bad to me, so he just kind of, I think he took the hint and he just stopped there. But that wasn't the first or the last time. And this is leading to something. I'm not just getting graphic for no reason. This is leading to something. Let me take another drink. I'm gonna look back on this and regret it, but this is the only way I'm gonna get it done. I'm telling most of this out of order because, again, I remember everything in bits and pieces, but I remember mostly everything because of how bad it was. So, anyways, I was in this relationship for 3.5 years, and I tried leaving multiple times. And a lot of those times I ended up coming back mostly out of fear because somehow it always ended up getting botched. There was always something that went wrong at the last minute, and I ended up getting scared and going back anyways. That's where that Stockholm syndrome kind of became an issue, but I kept going back. It took me 3.5 years to get out, and I met him when I was 18 going on 19. This would have been in 2021. I recently turned 23 back in May of this year, May 2nd. So that's 3.5 years of my life gone down the drain, and I'm almost 25, a few years. And that haunts me. I remember, I honestly think of how much I could have done with my life if I didn't meet him, But one of the scariest moments was in 2021, and we moved all over the place too. That was another thing. He was very impulsive. One minute we were in Tucson, and one minute we were in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and then we were back in Tucson, Arizona. So during the very few months, 3 months that we lived in North Dakota, this is when the sex trafficking started, and it took me a while to come to the point where I'm able to use that term because I didn't want to admit it for a while I was with him, but I had to come to terms with what it was. 1 minute, I have to take a drink here. We're in Grand Forks, North Dakota. He wouldn't let me work, by the way, for the majority of this relationship. He wouldn't let me work because his paranoia was that I was going to talk to guys at his job. I guess apparently his exes cheated on him, and he believed because of that I was going to cheat on him. He would never admit this, by the way, but I mean, yeah, so he was paranoid. And so it's worth mentioning too, while I was in this relationship with him, I really wasn't allowed to go outside for those 3.5 years, not without supervision. I wasn't allowed to have hobbies, a job out there. I wasn't really allowed to have friends like that. Everything was limited. I only went outside with him when he was doing DoorDash and Uber Eats. If you hear my cats meowing at the door, please ignore it. I can't let them in here because I have 2 cats. One of them is like an 7-month-old kitten, and she chews through like my cords and stuff. And I don't want her coming in here and knocking things over. She's a sweetheart, but like, yeah, they get separation anxiety. I might let them in anyways. Fuck it. I can't. My heart won't let me. I also got a bamboo plant recently, and my other cat, Toast, she chews through it. I got 2 cats. One of them's named Bread, and the other one's named Toast. You guys know about Bread. He's the orange and white one, but Toast is kind of the new one. I probably shouldn't have let them in, but my heart won't let me leave them out there when they're crying. Those are my babies. You guys are sniffing the bamboo plant. Let me go move it. You guys can't do that. You guys can be in here, but you guys can't eat that because I like my plant too, okay? I love my babies. Okay, anyways. Back to what I was saying. We were in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and we didn't have any money because obviously he wouldn't let me work. I begged him to let me work, and he wouldn't let me. And he refused to work a regular job too. So he insisted on doing DoorDash and Uber Eats. Anytime I brought up the possibility of us getting a job, he would get belligerent and beat my ass and punch me in the face and whatever. But anyways, we got broke, and all that shit. And long story short, it ended up in him quite literally forcing me to create explicit content for men on Discord under the threat of violence. Making nudes and stuff like that. If I didn't make a certain amount of money in a certain period of time, I got beaten, punched in the face. And I did that for a while, and then we moved back to Arizona, and then it stopped for a little while. Another thing I want to mention about Grand Forks before we get back to Arizona. This is probably the most traumatic part of it all. They're having a little verbal argument. I can't remember the specifics. He said something along the lines of, "I don't care about you," though. He said something along the lines of, "I don't care about you." And I kind of snapped back a little bit. I got a little bit bold with him. I said, "I don't care about you either." I was kind of getting bold at this point because I was kind of picking up on what was, the Stockholm syndrome was kind of wearing off a little bit. That's when he took his phone. It was an iPhone, it was an older iPhone, and it had a really thick, hard, heavy plastic case on it. I don't know how to describe it, but it was really thick and hard, had a lot of weight to it, and we were like really close to each other, talking, right, almost point blank range, essentially. This guy he was almost 200 pounds, like I want to say around 165, 170. Really strong guy. He used to be a competitive wrestler in high school, right? Just to give you some perspective. And he hurled his phone at my head, point blank range, like as hard as he could. He's a really athletic guy. Something instinctively told me to turn my head at the last minute. I turned my head this way, and somehow the phone ended up hitting me right here in the back of my head. All I remember is kind of going down. I just remember kind of going down the ground. And what happened was my arms ended up seizing up involuntarily. They ended up seizing up kind of like this inwards. I don't know what this is. If you guys know what this is, comment down below. I never figured out what this was, but my arms seized up inwards like this, and I wasn't causing it. And my arms and legs went numb. I couldn't move them voluntarily. I couldn't feel anything, but I just remember kind of sensing and seeing my arms bending inwards, and my vision was going blurry a little bit around the edges. I couldn't hear that good. My vision was blurry and everything. I went on the ground. I was partially paralyzed, again, seized up, couldn't move, couldn't hear that well. And I kind of just remember saying, even though I couldn't hear my own voice, "Please don't kill me." And at some point, the adrenaline kind of kicked in. And I just forced myself to stand up. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any pain right away. I don't know how much time went by. I just kind of stood up and I was crying. I was hyperventilating. I was panicking. It was just shock at that point. I didn't feel anything. I just remember looking down and then at the ground of the walls and looking at my hand, and I just saw blood everywhere. It was blood. There was so much blood everywhere. I'd never seen that much blood. And he's like kind of eerily calm about it. Like it's like a fake panic from him. Like he's kind of acting like he's concerned, but you can tell he really isn't. It's like almost like a look of pride in his face, like, "Oh, look what I did." But it's hard to explain. He made me go to the bathroom and he forced me to stand in the shower and rinse the back of my head. It was painful. He took a picture of it and showed me. He took a picture of the back of my head with his phone and he showed me there was a hole in the back of my head. I could see some pink stuff. It was graphic, but I could see, I don't know how to describe it, but pinkish stuff, a little bit of white stuff that looked like it wasn't supposed to be seeing the surface, if that makes sense. I was kind of getting squeamish at that point. And then that's when the adrenaline wore off and the pain kind of kicked in. Long story short, I couldn't walk or stand for long periods of time for a couple of weeks. I was laying on the floor of our apartment for over a couple of weeks with no bed. We had no bed. The air mattress we had was deflated. I was laying on the floor with no bed for over a couple of weeks, never got medical treatment. And eventually he just kind of forced me to go back to doing DoorDash with him. Because I guess he didn't trust me being unsupervised in the apartment for too long. Because he knew I was a runner. That's the thing about him. He knew I was a runner. That was the thing he always knew. He's very smart about that. We moved to Tucson. We moved back to Tucson because we lived there previously, but we moved back to Tucson. I'm sorry if this is all over the place. So much stuff happened. My brain is scrambled. It's bits and pieces, and it's so much. I'm trying to get through it though. Yeah, my memory's bad because of ever since I had that happen to the back of my head. I haven't told many people this, but my memory hasn't been the best ever since then. My memory got a little bit worse after that. I haven't told many people that. But we went back to Tucson. And again, things are still bad, but yeah, long story short, I'm not going to get into everything, but he basically coerced me back into doing the whole sex work thing. Put me in a position where I couldn't say no, and he knew it. And so I ended up having to do cam modeling with him. If you guys don't know what it is, it's when you live stream on explicit websites doing explicit things. A couple of these websites include Chatterbait, Jerkmate, Flirt for Free. Chatterbait's the most popular one, and then there's also Cam Soda. 1 second. We started out primarily doing it as a couple. Keep in mind, I was not sexually attracted to him at all at this point. I was just stuck and didn't know how to leave. He was basically raping me on camera the whole time. He knew I didn't want to do it, but he made me do it with him anyway. We were an interracial couple that played into it, and so I was made to do a lot of fetish content with him because if we did, that's primarily what our customer base was, is where most of our money came from, and he wouldn't let me work. So that was our main source of income. I didn't like doing it, but if I didn't do it, not only did I have to deal with his physical and verbal abuse, I had to deal with us having to face financial hardship because, again, I wasn't allowed to work for a long time. And we gained some notoriety from it. Now, quite a few times while we were on camera, I would oftentimes have a look on my face because I wasn't happy, you know. Sometimes he would, not sometimes, he would stop the stream a lot. I didn't have the chance to say no. This went on for a while, but after a while, I kind of started pushing back because of how much we were struggling financially. And ever since 2016, ever since I was a kid, I loved doing YouTube videos. And now, even before that, when I was around 10, 11 years old, I used to make YouTube videos with my parents' iPhones and stuff, and I used to edit. I always loved making videos as a kid. I have over 10 plus years of theatrical performance arts experience, public speaking experience. Competitively speaking, I was very into it. I loved entertainment growing up. I still do. I was very big into it. Statewide competitions and all that. Not that it matters. I'm not saying I'm the GOAT or anything, but it was something. I was really into it. I always loved entertaining, and so I really desperately wanted to get back into YouTube. It was something I did trial and error. I did YouTube on and off for about 8 to 9 years. I had channels that I did previously that I ended up deleting and failing over in the past. When you're 14, you make cringy content, you end up getting embarrassed and you delete it. But I made content even prior to that, so even at 10 years old, I didn't even upload it to YouTube, but I always had something for it, and while I was with him, I really desperately wanted to get back into it, and I had to pull teeth. I had to beg him to let me do YouTube again, and I almost wasn't able to do it, but somehow he let me. I guess it was because he knew it was something to kind of keep me from I guess he saw it as a way to keep me from complaining, a way of keeping me kind of complacent, because it didn't involve me leaving the house. It was just something to keep me busy. So eventually I was allowed to do it, and then when YouTube started generating income, then he was even more thrilled with it. And then he encouraged even more because it was generating income, and he didn't want to work a fucking regular job. But either way, I was forced to start working anyways. Finally, he let me work, but I was only allowed to work remote jobs because the thing is, I wasn't allowed to go outside because he didn't want men. He didn't want me flirting with men and getting male attention because he was very insecure. He was insecure like that. I wonder why. I lost track of where I was at. Anyways, yeah, he forced me to do all that stuff for money. Long story short, we ended up getting more notoriety from it than I expected thousands of viewers. We end up getting probably around 60 to 70,000 followers on Chatterbait. There's clips of us all over the internet. And there's clips where I'm smiling and acting like I'm happy. You could watch those clips and swear that I'm having a good time. you could watch those clips and swear that I'm having a good time. I'm not. It's because every time I had a look on my face, he'd stop the stream. I don't want to repeat his words, but he'd get very stern after that. And I didn't want to talk about this, but I have to because of the nature of the situation. We ended up getting relatively famous. At a certain point, I ended up talking him into letting me do some things solo. It took pulling teeth. My goal was to ultimately get some form of financial autonomy, and yet I still hated every second of it. I didn't want to do it, but it was something. It was survival at that point. At this point, I was planning to leave. Eventually, I did, and I ended up living in a domestic violence shelter for a few months. I had to leave everything behind, including my camera and my PC, and that's why for a while the camera quality was really bad. And I live on the West Coast currently. I live, in a relatively large city. I'm in the Southwest, and I'm not in Arizona anymore, but I'm still in the Southwest. And I've been out here for a while. He's still out here. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Probably not working. But I do remember that he threatened to kill himself when I left him the first time, and this caused me to panic. So I went back to the house we were renting. I was still staying at the shelter at the time, but I went back. He sent me texts threatening and alluding to killing himself, so I went back because I thought I could fix it. I saw a journal when I went back. I called the cops too. I had the cops escort me inside, but there's some little suicide note talking about how he's gonna kill himself and all that shit because he knew it was the only way he was gonna bring me back. Some pussy shit, right? And I checked his phone. Well, he left one of his older phones behind, his iPad. I looked through it, and I saw he was messaging other girls around my age on dating apps, trying to convince them to do the same thing. And that's probably what he's doing right now. And I have to live with that. I got the cops involved. They didn't do shit. They fucked up my restraining order, caused it to expire. I don't know where he is right now, but I'm 99% sure he's still out here. And I'm about 100% certain he's watching this video right now. I finally left him late last year, back in November 2024. I lived in a domestic violence shelter for about 4 months. No, 3 to 4 months, and then I finally found a job and I figured it out. And that's why I had to leave. When I left all my equipment behind. That's why my camera quality wasn't too good for a while. It's fixed now, thankfully. The long story short, the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is because of the nature of what I went through, because of the fact that I was forced to cam model. There's a bunch of clips on me that went semi-viral, and they're all over the internet, and I can't get rid of them. No matter how hard I try, because foreign websites are pirating them, and they're hosting them on their domains and whatnot. No amount of DMCA takedowns are ever going to get rid of it. And my channel is continuing to grow, and I'm forever grateful for that. But eventually it's going to get back here. I don't want you guys to be exposed to explicit content of me. I don't want you guys to seek it out. I'm going to have to beg you guys not to. If you guys do, and I can't force you not to, I'm going to have to beg you guys not to, but please don't. If it somehow gets your way back, if it somehow gets its way back to you guys, I'm so sorry. That's not how I want you guys to see me, and I'm going to have to ask that you please don't look at it. Sex trafficking. Media displays it in a very melodramatic way, but it comes in subtle forms. And more often than not, it's a family member, it's a boyfriend, it's a partner that lures you into it. It's very subtle.